Obviously, the big deal with this Saturn controller versus the previous model is it has the two Hall effect analog sticks that did change from the Alps to, I believe it was Alps,
sticks,
to
yeah.
Hall effects very recently, last few months. The handles are larger to accommodate the two built-in rumble motors, and then the dual trigger system for playing it with modern games. And that's why there's a second analog stick as well, considering Saturn only had the one analog stick on the 3D controller. So otherwise, your face button and D-pad layout are identical to Model 2 Saturn controller, and you even get the nice little media control buttons like you used to have on the Saturn controllers, because they are officially licensed. And so start buttons there, and then select and home are present like on the previous wireless Saturn controller.
Yeah.
And so these guys use the 2.4 gigahertz and Retrobits V2 receivers, so latency numbers are 8 to 10 ms under a frame of lag, so most should be unnoticeable to the 99%. Your display is going to be the bigger factor than the controller.
Right.
And battery life, 500 milliamp hour battery in this guy. So lasts, in my personal tests of a earlier production sample, 8 to 12-ish hours with a 2-hour charge time, and it can be used while it's charging.
That's nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no interference between multiplayer options, which is even better, so you can have multiples of these plugged in. It's using Retrobits V2 receiver technology, so you can pair these with the Genesis V2 receiver as well. And then the USB receiver, of course, allows operation on Switch, PC, supposedly Mac. I don't have Mac to test with. But as a very big-handed person, I am more fond of the fact that the larger grips give it more of a palmable grip versus the standard V2 Model 2 Saturn controller. So it just fits deeper into your hands, which is great. And then my biggest concerns personally were those thumbsticks being so close together, but as you can see, they are not interfering as long as you're not sliding your friggin' thumb all over the place.
You're not smashing them in.
Yeah, exactly. If you're playing respectfully, it respects you back.
That's good.
As you can see, it's a bit wider than a standard Saturn controller to accommodate the battery, more shoulder button width, and then again those dual rumble motors in the handles are really nice.
Do you know if I have an official Saturn controller from the 90s, can I swap out like the face buttons or anything like that, or is it not made to like exact specifications?
They used the official Sega molds in past things. I don't have an official Model 2, unfortunately.
That's okay.
So I can't confirm or deny that they might fit. I'd assume they would, but that is, again, my own personal assumption.
Not a problem. What was the importance of like keeping the form factor pretty close to what the real Saturn controller looks like?
I mean, if you don't keep the form factor the same, is it really a Saturn controller to you? Is it really a Model 2 Saturn controller? I mean, remember the original prototype that was shown off at, what was it, Gamescom or CES back in 2018 with those giant analog sticks? Like, was that really a Saturn controller at that point? We're going to go with the wired version here because that's going to give us the most authentic representation, because this is like official Sega molds.
Right.
As you can see, it isn't that much bigger overall. So you've got a little bit extra width right here, so a little bit extra width and then a little bit coming down to accommodate the sticks. But you look at that and that is just a full-blown Saturn controller. Like, you look at this, you know it's a Saturn controller. Even with all of its extra bells and whistles, and again, the media controls being on it, again, just give it that extra layer of authenticity. And again, it's bigger, so it fits better in your hands if you have bigger hands. So it's just nice.
Do you envision this primarily as like a Switch controller that you can also use on your Saturn, or do you think it's pretty good for both?
For me, it's primarily a Saturn controller first, but it does work very well on Switch and PC emulation. So no matter what you want to do with it, it's pretty good. I've won about 3 or 4 games of Apex Legends with it.
Oh, nice.
So
congrats.
It has all the functions that you need for modern gaming. So I mean, it's got L3, R3, and then you got your 6 face buttons. The C and Z do mirror one of the shoulder buttons. So you are going to have dual functionality if you prefer fighting games with 6 buttons or the shoulder buttons. You can do either one. So it's just really good. and you can use it for the Genesis Online app for Nintendo Switch, and it's remappable as a Pro Controller on Switch, so like every functionality that you would want out of it, it's able to do it.
That's awesome, and thank you for dunking on kids in Apex with the Saturn controller. I appreciate that.
I also do it with N64 controllers.
You get Victory Royales too, or are you just doing the Apex one?
I don't do the Victory Royale anymore.
It's really good though. I really like the controller design. I really think it's I can't wait to feel it. Actually, I might as well just pick it up myself. I don't know why I don't do that.
Do it? Cool? Yeah, do it. That's what it's here for. You give that a nice feel.
I like the feel of that.
Yeah.
I like it a lot actually. I really like this controller. I like the feel of it. It feels. I thought it'd be weird at first with the D6, but it actually works. The only thing I'm concerned about. It felt like a bit of a stretch if you do it and hold it like this. It feels like it's a bit of a stretch if you hold it like that. But if you grip it like this, it feels a little bit nicer, you know? Little things.
We are concerned about interference at the moment just because of how many extra devices are around. It's not something that I'm an independent tester, and it has not been a problem for me.
Stick feels pretty good after you get used to the smaller.
It is smaller. It is smaller, absolutely.
People who are used to like the Switch will be able to.
The Joy-Cons,
the Joy-Cons. They can play games like this with a relative comfort. The folks who are used to the nub on the 3D control pad are going to take a good 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to have a learning curve.
That difference in travel, of course, because everything you do, every minute move that you make, is a huge move in the game. I know one with this kind of travel on those. Everybody's like, why couldn't they make them analog, right? But I think that's because the Switch doesn't have analog.
The Switch does not have analog unless you hook up a GameCube controller. But
right, yeah, exactly.
And I mean, how many? You guys are the Saturn experts, so you tell me how many analog trigger games are on the Saturn? Is it like
racing
Mech
games,
Warrior?
Racing games primarily.
Like Mech Warrior?
Not a lot, but
I mentioned it.
And are they implemented to such a degree where it is actually useful? That's the question that I want to pose.
Sure. Analog acceleration, which I think that they could map to this trigger.
Yeah.
If they're, they said that that's something they would consider because they don't have it here. If you were playing an analog racing game, you could map the acceleration to this button.
Yeah, that would actually be really cool. That would be really cool.
Something that, and then you'd of course do brakes or shifting like this.
Yeah.
And map the acceleration to that. That was one solution.
Yep.
But again, I know that you guys. I've told the people, I know you guys got to keep it you guys got to keep it to a certain price point in order to have it satisfy everything that you guys are going for. So yeah. But I think the fact that you guys added Hall sticks is great.
Yeah.
I didn't experience that last year with the trigger.
Yeah.
Where it couldn't cause knights to So that's cool. You want to try it?
Hell yeah, man.
Camera?
Yeah.
Candid thoughts in your hands.
In my hands, feels great.
It's a little thin, right? Doesn't it have like a thin feel?
It's thinner and lighter than I was expecting. I was expecting
yet thicker, all at the the same time.
Right, exactly. It's thicker in the correct way.
It is heavier than a standard.
Oh, yeah, it's slightly heavier than a standard pad, but it's not like heavier than a controller should be.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I test stuff for them, and I've been testing the analog ranges on this one. Obviously the travel distance is different, but the range that you're going to see in games has been lining up to such a degree that it's not something that I've noticed a vast difference in. So I've critiqued their N64 sticks and all this other stuff, but comparing this stick's performance to the original 3D controller in my environment has been very close to 1-to-1. They are using just standard Hall effect sticks, so if they do go bad for any reason, you can open it up and actually swap them with the ribbon cables.
So if you get drift or something, there is like a contingency.
Yes, you can actually
fix it yourself easily.
At least on that sample. I don't think they have changed it. Obviously, I don't have a screwdriver on me to open this up and see.
Dumb question. Does that require any soldering know-how to replace that? Oh,
no, it's literally it's a ribbon cable.
Yeah, that is sick.
Yeah. Be brutally honest, Nick.
Yeah.
Brutally honest.
All right.
I thought you've had a little bit more time with it.
I can see my maybe I'm not holding it correctly. I can see my middle fingers cramping up if I hold it incorrectly. That's the only critique I would have about it. The sticks do feel good. I mean, it works well. Like I said, it reminds me of a Switch. And I think if I'm holding it like this, maybe it would be a little better. I guess. I was really just death.
You're just getting a little too tense here. You got to relax. Got to relax.
How do you feel about them being kind of recessed like that? You know,
I think it's
feel
fine.
good about that design factor.
I was wondering how that would shake down, and it honestly feels fine.
Yeah.
May I add a point to that recess thing?
Yeah.
It helps prevent damage.
Yeah, that's what
it helps prevent damage to the controller too.
Exactly.
I've jumped on these controllers without damaging them.
Yeah.
Really?
You know, a lot of
I do weird things to my controller
You're
test,
like
man.
a Flex Seal commercial.
a lot of people
I throw them off 3-story balconies. Like, I do a lot of weird things.
The plastic feels sturdy, and my usual assortment of tests prove little trouble for them to withstand.
Yeah, I think it's a good controller. I mean, I could see myself using this on, games on my PC quite a bit, and as a Switch controller especially. I would say that like this is a great controller by itself. It's got the Saturn D-pad, which is obviously a major plus, but we're here because of the thumbsticks. They work. They work fine. They remind me of Joy-Cons, except I don't know, maybe they feel a little more clicky and responsive than a Joy-Con would in a good way.
Yeah.
I'm concerned for people who are expecting this to be exactly the shape of a Saturn controller and want to hold it the exact way they hold a Saturn controller. It's a little different. Like, it looks the same, it's true to the original design, but you're going to be holding it and like feeling around the controller differently than a regular Saturn pad.
Yeah.
And that just takes some getting used to. I could see myself using it on PC, on a Switch, for sure. And playing Nights with it's good. I gotta take down one of the weirdest bosses in video game history.
Ain't that the truth? I'm not gonna lie, if I played this like as a kid, it might have been nightmare fuel.
Oh, it might have been, yeah. It'll mess you up.
I want to do
So I'm working on the controller, and I'm trying to figure out these aren't really working. Are these mapped to something different, or?
I believe the top two are the ones you want to be using.
I know, but it's like these shoulder ones in general. These ones don't work on Saturn at all, or is it
Those would be for Switch games, right? Because Saturn doesn't really have.
In previous firmware updates, the shoulder buttons were mapped to the bottom two.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't like that, so I said, no, we need to map those to...
You want to map them,
That makes sense.
okay.
And so
Is there a way to switch that back though if you want to like set it in settings or
there's
something like that?
probably going to be a macro that will let you switch them, but I can't state definitively.
No worries. Like I said, I just want to make sure see if there was like a way. Because I know some people like the shoulders down there. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just like the more options, the better for people.
Pat, do you feel that the top shoulder buttons are actually feel
They feel much
responsive?
better than the actual, the original wireless ones actually.
Okay.
If I did use these, I might just go use these even if I'm not using the wireless or the analog stick.
Are you having?
But I do like these whole systems.
Okay.
What's up?
Are you having any trouble, like with your fingers slipping onto the second pair? You feel the top ones and you're able to stay on there?
It's a tiny bit awkward, but it's not too awful. Like, it's a little bit awkwardness. Like,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
way.
Just something you have to
Yeah,
get
'cause it
used
feels more
to.
natural doing that, yeah. Like,
Yeah, okay.
That's why I'd say like D-pads. I would have rather had this. It feels a little more natural. But just my opinion.
Definitely, if you're used to playing the 3D analog control pad, you're used to those triggers being on the back of the controller and having travel because they're analog triggers, right? So you go, your brain just wants to use the back set, right?
This is actually map or something. It looks like maybe it's the.
Oh, wait a second. Try pressing. Oh, okay. So it is turning you right there.
What is that map to?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the triggers in the game normally turn you around like a.
It jumps me, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. This is just arrows or something like that. 'Cause I don't know what other buttons are doing this, so it's not a macro.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what it's bound to. Though. I'm just confused. Is there like a button? I don't know. I'm just confused right now. So these are bound to something. I just don't know what this is doing right now. Is this?
It's turning you quarter turns, which the analog triggers do that in the game. You know, they turn you at a quarter. Yeah. The analog stick feels fine, but those trigger buttons felt a bit ham-fisted to me during my play session. I wasn't able to get Knights to do what he's supposed to do. That's what I'm concerned about. You know, because like he should be able to stop on a dime. He should be able to do like really precise movements, and I just couldn't get him to do that. You know.
So this definitely might not be still the controller for.
I think people are expecting it to be a replacement for the 3D control pad. Are just going in for disappointment. You know, they're just setting themselves up for disappointment. But I mean, like, using it for multiple other, you know, analog. Using it for racing is probably going to be fine. Using it for, you know, like games like Stellar Assault, probably fine. You know.
My general thoughts on it as an independent tester that's been messing around with it for the last year through its Alps iteration and Hall Effect iteration, it has become my only Saturn controller that I ever use now.
Really?
I don't use any other Saturn controllers. I use it on my Genesis because it's the V2 receivers.
Right.
And so
that's good.
It's just my one and done for Sega stuff. And then I have another V2 Saturn controller that I let my buddy play with, just the standard Saturn controller, whenever he comes over to do multiplayer Genesis or Saturn stuff. So I've been a fan of it. It's very durable. You can feel that it's more solid in the hands than the previous Saturn controllers have been. And it's just a lot tougher. As an independent tester of it, I've been really loving it. I am very brutally honest about when I don't like their stuff.
Right. That's good.
So just trying to ensure that it's what everybody will get the most out of, and obviously firmware updatable to improve features that people don't even think about until someone else says it, you know?
Will this work on wireless Saturn receivers for previous Retrobit controllers?
As long as they're V2s.
Got it. Okay.
So if you have a previous V2 Saturn receiver, it works with this.
Nice. Great.
Okay.
Yeah.